I'm not sure there are many people in this room who do not know who our next speaker is. Just in case there are one or two, Julia Butterfly Hill became an inspiration to millions throughout the world when she kept a nearly 2-year treetop vigil on a tarp-covered platform to stop Maxim Pacific Lumber Company from completing a timber harvest plan in the headwaters redwoods. There are a lot of other details about her which I could present for you right now, but I think I'll just give the stage to her and just express my huge gratitude for you being here and sharing Mother's Day with all of us. Julia Butterfly Hill.
Thank you. So is this working? Yes? Oh, there I am. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. I thank the organizers of this event for asking me to be here. I kind of had to giggle to myself when I was asked to come here because I'm really the poster child for a Luddite. Above the word Luddite is a big picture of me. I had one of the scariest moments in my life trying to figure out how to work a cell phone for the first time. So it's quite interesting that I'm here. I'm here to, when I was thinking about that, when I was kind of thinking, oh, what can I bring to this kind of a conference? What can I bring when I know very little about technology? I figured, well, I better bring what I know best, which is heart and spirit and soul, which I think is one of our challenges with technology is how are we going to hold on to heart and spirit and soul in an age that can be so integral and yet so separating all at once. For me, just to give you an example of just how little I knew about technology, when I first climbed into the tree, now known to the world as Luna, on December 10th, 1997, I thought I was going to be there for 3 weeks to a month. I didn't know it was going to turn into 738 days. I climbed up there because it was all I knew to do. I saw an injustice happening that ripped my heart and my gut out and stomped on it and said, Julia, you have to do something. You cannot allow this injustice to happen without trying to do something about it. And I think that's part of what this conference is about finding ways that we can do something about the problems in our world using the tools that are available to us. And I climbed into the tree because it was the very first thing that came along that was something I could do. I'm going to interrupt myself for a minute. I keep hearing feedback. Am I the only one hearing feedback? Anyone up there? Mr. Technology guys? Okay, good. It's just ringing in my ears, but I'll just ignore it. So on December 11th, 1997, the first morning that I was up there began one of the most intense days of what would then become an intense couple of years of my life. Pacific Lumber Maxam Corporation decided that they were going to try and get myself and other activists out of the tree, and they began that morning by revving up chainsaws at the base of the tree. And this all happened, there was an extra activist in the tree. Myself and an activist named Almond went up into the tree to replace what was supposed to be one guy who was a 16-year-old from San Francisco named Nature Boy who needed to come back and go back to school. And so he was the only one left to sit in the tree, and that's why I went out, because I felt like, okay, we have to go up, we cannot allow this tree to fall, and Almond decided he would go with me. So we get up into the tree, and it turns out there's an extra activist in the tree who just happened to be wandering by and thought it'd be fun to climb up and visit Nature Boy. And so there's 4 of us on a platform. This platform makes my house in the tree look like nothing. I mean, this platform was deluxe 5-star compared to what we were staying in up there. I lived on a 6x8 platform, give or take a few feet. And so there's 4 of us up in the tree on a 6x8 platform. And when we got up there, the other activist had my harness. He had to lower down my harness to me because he was not supposed to be there. I put it on, I got to the top, and I was thinking that night, this is December 10th, I'm thinking, okay, now Nature Boy and this guy, High Top, are going to go down, and then I'll be able to have some room and get some sleep. Nope. They decided it was too late. They didn't feel like going down that night. It was raining, kind of like it is today, but a little harder, in the redwood rainforest of California, and they thought, we're going to stay the night. And I'm thinking, oh, great. What am I doing here? I came up here because there's no one to sit, and now there's 4 of us on a platform the size of a double bed. And I'm cold, and I'm wet, and all I want is some space and some sleep. And just please go. But it was kind of like, well, it's not my tree. I can't tell them what to do. So all 4 of us are scrunched up, and I'm sitting there going, my eyes are rolling back into my head. I'm completely exhausted, and I'm just begging for morning to come so that they'll go. But then morning came, and they were sitting around joking with each other. Nature Boy and High Top and Almond were all joking, and I was looking at the watch that we had hanging from a branch, and I said, you know, you guys, it's getting late. Pacific Lumber's going to come. You really need to get down. You really need to get down. Yeah, okay. They drug their heels. Finally, they start to rappel down. And I leaned my head out the platform, and I looked at this clearing on the logging road behind the tree, and there was a Pacific Lumber truck. And I screamed, P.O.! And right as I screamed that, the chainsaws start. And Nature Boy is part of the way down the tree. High Top was part of the way down the tree. They had begun to rappel. They stopped rappelling. They're hanging out somewhere in the depths below. Almond grabs a video camera because he's the other person with the harness. I don't have one at this point because High Top has my harness because it was the extra guy in the tree who had my harness, and he was using it to get back down. And so everybody's got a harness except for me. And so Almond grabbed a videotape, a video recorder, excuse me, and in the spirit of technology, as it often happens, because Mother Nature is a force and technology is another force, but you can't exactly always rely on technology. And wouldn't you know it, he brought a video camera out to tape what was happening, and it didn't work. But that was our first chance with technology, was a video camera trying to record what they were doing, because Almond went out on a rope. And one of the ways that we protect more than one tree at a time is by ropes that connect them. And then an activist will go out and literally hang hundreds of feet above the ground from a rope connecting 2 trees in hopes that the lumber company won't cut either one of them down because it would kill the activist. So he's out there with the videotape, trying to get the videotape to work, and he's banging on it, which is how we always deal with broken technology. Bam! If it doesn't work, hit a little harder. Bam! And then if it doesn't work, you just kind of chunk it and go, never mind, which is kind of what he did. But in the process, the reason he went out on the line to videotape is because Pacific Lumber took their 7-foot-long chainsaws, which is how they take down the old-growth trees like Luna, which is over 1,000 years old and 200 feet tall. 15 feet in diameter at the base, which, for any of you who are like me and it's hard to visualize, that's about 12 people my size with arms outstretched to go around the base of the tree that I lived in for 2 years. And so they use 7-foot chainsaws to take these down. Well, as I'm sure most of you know, redwoods are family systems, which all of us are. All of us are a family. All of life is a family. And there were 2 babies growing out of Luna's trunk, 100 feet tall babies. And they went through those babies with their chainsaws that very first morning. While there were 4 of us in the tree, they were going through her base, through her babies, saying, you better come down, we're going through the base of the tree. And at the same time, because they're using that as the diversion, they're sending up one of their climbers known as Climber Dan. His name's Dan. We call him Climber Dan because his job is to come up after people like us and try and get us down. Well, they're sending him up another tree that we were attached to, thinking that our attention would be diverted to the chainsaws threatening to kill us, which was true. We were very diverted because they were threatening to kill us and going through the base of the tree we happened to be sitting in. And but Almond saw Climber Dan coming up the other tree, and so he went out on the line to try and videotape it, and then the videotape's not working. So there's all this chaos going on. There's chainsaws going through the base of the tree. Nature Boy is cussing up a storm, going, you blank and blank loggers, you better blank and blank stop it, blank, blank, blank. And High Top is preaching. Nature Boy, don't preach, don't cuss. It's not polite to cuss. It's breaking the nonviolence code. And then he starts preaching to the loggers, do you believe in Jesus? Oh, this is his creation. He doesn't like when you kill his creation. You know you're going to go to hell if you keep doing this. And Almond's out on the line going, climber Dan, please don't cut the line, please don't cut the line. I'm not a professional here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any safeties. Please don't cut the line. And Climber Dan's cussing up a storm. All of you activists are all the blank and same. You're all blank and professionals, and you get paid to do what you do. You know it. And meanwhile, I'm sitting up in the tree going, I'm not a professional. Can I come down now? I didn't mean to get into this. I just wanted to save a tree. I didn't mean to get into all this. And I don't have a harness, so I have no way of really seeing what's going on. I'm just hearing all of this chaos, cussing, chainsaws, preaching, begging for our lives. And I'm 180 feet up in the air without a harness. So I do the only thing I can think of, which was grab the cell phone, my first experience with the cell phone. Because Almond had taught me that one of the purposes of a tree sit, one of the biggest purposes of the tree sit is more than to try and protect that area. It's about bringing a spotlight to the issue. Bringing a spotlight to the point where a forest becomes a product and showing people what's happening to the planet, what's happening to the forest, what's happening to people's lives as a result. And so I thought, well, if there's anything I can do, I'll just grab the phone. And we had brought a list of media at that time, which was about 8 numbers long. Now it's about 108 at least, but at the time it was about 8 numbers. And luckily for me and for the forest and for the movement, they were all community alternative press, which is one of the things that excites me about the internet, is that we can find alternative ways of getting the truth out there. Because as I later learned, I call the mainstream media the beast. Because what it does is because it has to compete so much with entertainment industry. We're such an entertainment-driven society. We're so image-stimulated that press now does a better job of entertaining than informing. And as such, our communities are becoming weak because most people rely on mainstream media for their communication, for their information, and they're not really getting it, and so they can't be a strong community. And so I call it the beast because it has to compete so much with entertainment industry. It takes everything that's really vital to an issue, and in the editing room, it chews it all up. And what it spits out the other side is never quite recognizable to the issues that we're really talking about and that we really care about. So luckily for me, my first person I got through to was an alternative press. And I'm about to share with you my first media experience because it's quite funny, number one, and I like to laugh. And number two, I think it ties in with the power that we have with the internet and with technology about getting voices out there that aren't oftentimes heard. So my first thing I do is I pick up the list of 8 numbers, I pick up the cell phone, and I'm shaking like a redwood needle in El Nino storms. And I'm trying to hold the phone and press the buttons, and I'm just pressing like mad, going, please work, I don't want to die, please work, please work, I don't want to die, please work. And I finally get it to work, and I'm astounded because I don't even know how I did. I just pressed enough buttons, and magically it turned on. And I go through about 3 numbers before I finally get someone that answers, and it's this wonderful community radio station called KZYX in Mendocino County. And Annie Esposito is the news person there, and she picks up the phone. And first it was her answering machine that picked up the phone. Talk about technology. And so I thought I was talking to an answering machine, and it took me a while to realize that she had actually picked up the phone and was then talking to me. So this is me on my first time. My name, what's my name? My name is Julia Butterfly Hill. And I'm 180 feet up in an ancient redwood in Humboldt County in California on Pacific Lumber Maxam Corporation land. And they're cutting down trees all around us. They started with the trees at the base. They're threatening to cut Luna down. They sent the climber Dan up another tree, and he's threatening to kill us. And there's an activist named Almond out on the line, and he's trying to videotape it, but I don't think the videotape's working. And there's these 2 activists trying to get down, and they can't get down because there's all these people around. And I'm 180 feet up. Yeah, I'm 180 feet up, and I don't have a harness, and I'm stuck. And that was my first interview. That was my first experience with technology in the tree. So luckily for me and for all of us, I've come a long way. So then began the process of, okay, how do we do outreach? How do we get the word out from a tree in the middle of nowhere? How do we get the sounds of the forest falling out to the world? How do we get people in suburbia in Chicago, in New York, in all these places? How do we get them to care about the redwoods and what's happening out here? How do we get people to care that 97% of the ancient redwoods are gone? And that of the remaining 3%, there's only 1% protected. And of the 2% that's not protected, that they're mowing them down into the ground with clear cuts and then following it up with diesel fuel and napalm and herbicides. How do we get people to care? How do we get people to hear? And so I tried to get the word out. I tried calling the media. And I found out very shortly that mainstream media is an entertainment tool and therefore wants a hook, wants an angle to tell a story. The information is not enough anymore. You have to have something to get what you care about out. You have to have a way for them to bite and to grab it and to run with it. And so I found out that the national record was 42 days. And I thought, okay, if I break the national record, and this is me in all of my naivety, I didn't plan on becoming a spokesperson. I didn't plan on using technology. I didn't plan on living in a tree for 738 days. I was just taking it day by day and step by step and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do next? How do we do it better? And so I tried to get them, and I thought, okay, if I break the national record, then the media will come and they'll talk to all the spokespeople of the movement, and they'll go cover the forest, and they'll go cover the issue, and then I'll go figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life and for the forest. And then I learned that I was going to be the hook, that once I broke the record, and it actually took more than breaking the national record. It was so funny. I climbed up in the tree in the worst storms in recorded history of California, El Nino of 1997. All the world's problems, I later have learned, have been blamed on that year, on that winter. All of the world's problems come from El Nino of 1997. And I climbed up and lived in a tree for 2 years in the worst winter. The Pacific Lumber Company hovered a twin propeller helicopter 75 feet above my head with 300-mile-an-hour updrafts. They placed me under a 10-day security blockade in an effort to cut off my supplies and starve me down. They surrounded me with ropes and floodlights and security guards. When I told them they might starve me to death, but they wouldn't starve me down, they started blowing air horns all night to cause sleep deprivation. For 8 days they did that. All these things are happening. And what broke the story was my birthday. This woman from the Los Angeles Times Life and Style section called. Exactly. And luckily for me, Almond was down on the ground at that point and was kind of at an office. We didn't even have an office. This whole thing was so organic. It was just people coming and going and holding on like mad to this one area and refusing to let it go and doing what they could. So this woman calls and says, you know, I write about women, and I think Julia's like a rad chick. But my editor needs just a little bit more of a hook. And I'm thinking, okay, I've gone through the worst winter in history. I've nearly been blown out of the tree by a helicopter. I've broken the national record. I've been placed under siege. I'm going through all these things, and I'm thinking, that's still not enough. What's enough for these people? Do I need to trip and accidentally fall one day and smash into the ground, and then they'll talk about this issue? So Almond was scrolling through his mind, trying to come up with things, and he said, oh, well, her birthday's in 4 days. Perfect! Yes! So the story went out in the Los Angeles Times Life and Style section because I had a birthday in the tree, and the rest is ever-evolving history. So through that process, I started learning about technology. I started learning about how, okay, if I was in the tree without technology, I would be doing a lot of singing and talking with the birds and with the chipmunks and with the squirrels, but people wouldn't be finding out about it. And luckily for me, people got on board that know how to use technology, that don't have to work like mad just to turn on a cell phone. And eventually the process began to grow and change to the point where, number one, I was able to get rid of the cell phone, which I was very proud of because I'm not very fond of cell phones. I had a solar-powered radio phone. And I think one of the things when we talk about technology is that a lot of people expect me to be the one who's ranting and raving, say we all need to go back to the cave era, and that we want to get rid of everything and just go back to living in caves and living as simply as we can. I understand that we are an evolutionary species, but I feel that because we have the ability to adapt so much as a species, we have this problem where we're asking the rest of the planet to adapt to us instead of saying how can we adapt to the rest of the planet. So I think that's our challenge with technology, is that there are technologies that are solutions to the problems in the world, and there are technologies that are part of the problem. 7-foot chainsaws. The Muir Woods is protected only because at that time, when they were cutting down all the rest of the trees, San Francisco is now full of eucalyptus. It used to be full of redwoods. The redwoods are all taken out of here because they could get to them. But the areas where they couldn't get to it because there wasn't the technology was protected, places like Muir Woods. But now they have 7-foot chainsaws, and they have twin propeller helicopters to pull these trees out of the valleys and off of the steep hillsides. We really have the potential within each and every one of us, and including in our technology, to do absolutely devastating destruction or be complete heroes for the planet and for our children and for their children and for ourselves today. But that's where we have to make decisions, where we have to draw the line, or we have to say, when are we doing something for the better, and when are we just looking to greenwash and co-opt and steal from the planet and from each other? And that line is very fine. And the world of technology, to me, is very fine. I've seen activists who are phenomenal, who do the most incredible things, including the guy who came in and helped me do the website that ended up being a powerful outreach tool to the world. He spent too much time in front of that computer, and he lost his heart and his spirit and his soul. He lost that spark. And I think that's the fine line with technology, that we have to decide, okay, this is a tool, but it's only a tool. How do we bring heart and spirit and soul into a technological, mechanical world? How do we create dialogue through the computer? How do we honor the sacred through something that is, in its inherent self, is coming from taking from the sacred? I think one of the things that I hope comes from a conference like this is that all of the great minds in this room that know technology will work together to create technology that reuses all the technology we already have. The technological world is changing so fast that it's part of the disposable society that we've come to live in. Landfills are filling up with parts from computers that are outdated, but the computers came from the planet. Making the computers is one of the most toxic things known to the planet and to humankind, to the air and the water, massively toxic on our planet. And yet we keep building and growing and building and growing and building and growing because we have the technology. When do we get to the point where we use the technology we already have to do it better? To reuse what we've already taken, to clean up what we've already destroyed, to promote solar power and wind power, especially in places like California where there's lots of sun and there's lots of wind, there's both. We have the technology to harness there, to use for the good. And with the internet, how do we use the fact that we're in an image-driven society without just feeding into that? If we just stay in image-driven, then we don't engage. And people just sit there and they're like, oh, that's a cool website, there's cool pictures, isn't that groovy? And then that's the end of it. But with our website, there was so much interaction that ended up happening. One of the things that touched me the deepest with our website was we received something like 200 emails, somewhere between 100 and 200 emails from young people in Jakarta, Indonesia, while I was still in the tree. A very war-torn, ravaged area where they weren't even relating to the forest issue. They just wrote letters and said thank you, that they were inspired by the website to, in their war-torn area, to get involved and to not give up hope and to be a part of the solutions for their country, for their area. So we have this way of doing incredible good. I was able to switch to a solar-powered radio phone from a cell phone. My technology was a solar panel, which is a solution to the world, to the problems of extracting energy. The radio phone is just like you would have in your house, a portable phone. I had a literal landline in my tree, except for that it was 3 miles away. It's altered to where as long as you have a line of sight, you can be up to 3 miles away from the base of your phone. Because I was on a mountaintop above the little town of Stafford, because 7 families' homes in the little town of Stafford lost their homes under a massive wall of mud that began on a Pacific Lumber clear cut, there was many people there who were willing to have the base of my phone at their house. And so I literally had a landline at their house, and my phone was at the top on my tree, on our tree, the world's tree. And I was blessed with a phenomenal ground support crew because technology does mess up and does shut down at the most inappropriate times. Usually if there was an anniversary of the tree sit, or when something was happening with the Headwaters Forest Agreement and we had to lobby, or we had to have a concerted effort, whenever it was really, really vital that my phone work, that's usually when it broke down. And so I had a phenomenal ground support crew that would hike up that mountain, pick up the phone, bring it back down the mountain, stick it on its base so it could find its signal again, or take it to the shop and have it fixed and hike it all the way back up. Sometimes in one day, back and forth, they would do this tag team to help my technology keep working. I had a radio in the tree. My radio was hand-powered. I still use that radio because why should I take from the planet when I don't have to? When taking a little bit of extra time and energy and effort makes such a tremendous difference. And so for me, I tend to stay clear of technology, but it is a part of our world, and it is a very powerful part of our world. And luckily for me, I'm surrounded by people who know where the power button is on a computer. I saw the internet for the first time about a month or two after I came down. I saw my website. It was the first time and the only time I've ever even seen the internet. But it was really incredible to see the effects that the internet can have and all the different ways we can have of linking each other together. But I also see where we just get sucked into that world and we lose our passion and we lose our ability to interact, and instead it's just a screen and information and a zone to just go into with something that looks cool or sounds cool. And my hope from conferences like this is that we find a way to link heart and spirit and soul with the internet, that we find ways to promote the solutions, that we get bold, that we get visionary, that we work together. And oftentimes in movements, it seems working together is one of the hardest things for us to do, because we all have our own way of finding the solutions. We all say, well, my way is the only way, or your way is the only way, or mine's the right way and yours is the Luddite way, or whatever. But that we all have common goals. We want to see air that's breathable. We don't want to live in a world anymore where children have to stop in the middle of running around on the playground and inhale through a bronchodilator because they can't breathe the air anymore. And we don't want to see a world where we have to spend $1.95 on water in plastic bottles, the plastic destroying the air on the water that we use to clean it up to put the water in it. That we want to see a world that promotes the alternatives. And in a technological age, therein is our challenge. How do we hold ourselves accountable in our technology to being a part of the solutions, to making the alternatives the accepted norm, to inspiring people to get involved, and not only get involved with technology, but take what they learn with technology and bring it into their communities. Because technology is not available to everyone. There are people who are like me, who have a very hard time understanding it, and there's people who don't have access. And I don't think that the answer is to give access to everybody. I think it's for us to take what we can share and learn and interact with through our technology and bring it back into the community, bring it back to the grassroots, bring it to the young people, bring it to the poor people, bring it to the people of color, bring it to the people who can take what we learn and then implement it in daily life. And work together to demand the solutions from our genre, from our work, from the technological society. And speaking of that, a few days ago, found this ad in a magazine, found out it's all over the country, it's in the BART station, they're using it everywhere. And it's proved to me that people understand the power of heart and spirit and soul because they're capitalizing on it. But now what that means is that their technology has allowed them to distance themselves from the heart and the spirit and the soul. Even though they understand its power, they're so distant from it that instead of honoring what I did for 738 days in a tree, they stole it. It's a company, OmniSky, wireless internet and email service. They have a woman who looks an awful lot like me, sitting up on a platform that's a lot groovier than the one I lived on for 2 years. And she's got all these little things around her. She's got a little clothesline with her things hanging out. The redwoods are rainforest. You don't have clothesline in the rainforest. It doesn't work. They don't even get it. They even use the redwoods and they don't even get it. And she's got her little handheld little computer, OmniSky wireless internet email service, and she's dialing up someone. On the back, the sign says day 538. And then you flip the page, and what she has wired herself up is spongebath.com. At the base of the redwood trees is a man carrying sponge bath buckets with spongebath.com. Which is funny, hysterical, and appalling all at the same time. If only I had had the ability to email up at spongebath.com. Excuse me, I'd like a 6'2", really well-built, dark man with really soft loofahs and all natural soaps, of course. Can you please bring me my sponge bath? Thank you. So now I'm going to figure out a way to hold these people accountable. I'm not sure how. I'm going to figure it out though. And if anyone has any ideas, I'd love to hear it. Because, I'm sorry? Yeah. Oops. It just says, right here it just says OmniSky. Yeah, I don't know if it's on here. Let's see if it's even on here. They have an 800 number. Isn't that funny? No email, no website. We're about computers, but call us. Oh no, omnisky.com is the website. Omnisky.com. Well, what I'm thinking is that, you know, it was a perfect example to me of how fine the line is of technology, heart, spirit, and soul. Because they got it. They see how the whole world has responded, not just because I sat in a tree for 738 days, but because I brought a message of consciousness and about our separation of consciousness. And I call that separation syndrome, that when we rip our roots out of the ground, we begin to die as a consciousness, as a society, and that we're doing that. And I call that the disease, separation syndrome. And that all of the problems with our air, our water, nuclear, deforestation, all these issues are symptoms of that disease. And that to me is the heart of the message. That's the spirit, that's the roots, that's the core of why I did what I did and why I continue to do what I do. And these people got it. They saw how powerful that message is, but then they ripped it off, which means that they're on that fine line where they lost their touch. So I don't want to scream at them. I don't want to tell them they're bad. I don't want to sue them. I want to call them now to honor the heart and the spirit and the soul that they're trying to co-opt. I want to get them to donate percentages to go to land trust and forest protection. Okay, questions?
Just in a real encapsulated way, what was what made it that you came down? What was the sense of now's the time?
When I first climbed in the tree, I was going to stay for 3 weeks to a month. During that time, I realized I had to do more, that this issue needed to be pushed further, that people needed to know the first step in making change is information. The second step in making change is inspiration. That the information is very overwhelming in our world, and especially in the technological world where you can get all the information available to the human consciousness, to add that element of inspiration that switches people into getting active with the knowledge, because the knowledge alone can be very disempowering and overwhelming. So you add that inspiration, you add that, yes, as an individual, I can make a difference, and yes, when we bring our individual strengths together, then we really make a difference. And that's what empowers people to take action, and then they take change. And so when I was coming to that understanding, I said, okay, I will not allow my feet to touch the ground again, no matter what, until I've done everything I can, number one, to raise consciousness, make people aware, And number two, get this area protected. And there were many times where I second-guessed myself making that promise, because I am a person that believes that our words and our actions must meet always. And so once I gave my word, my actions had to meet. And in El Nino storms and helicopters and all those other things, I'm thinking, oh my God, why did I say I was going to do this? So I finally came down because, number one, the word had gotten out to the world, and it's continuing to do. It's a media phenomenon that still blows me away. I wake up every day and pinch myself and go, okay, I want to be back in my life now. This is somebody else's. But the second thing that happened was on December 17th, 1999, after nearly a year of negotiations with Pacific Lumber Maxam Corporation, the over 1,000-year-old tree that I was in that was marked to become someone's deck or sauna, siding, hot tub, patio furniture, and the grove of her family around her, 2.9 acres, which was how much I was physically able to protect by being there. Not the amount that happened, you know, consciousness shifting and what other people will do, but physically I was able to protect that area. Is now protected forever under a legally binding agreement called a deed of covenant, that no matter who the area gets sold to or whatever happens, no one can ever go in there and cut it again. And so I was able to come down because it was protected. Yes.
Julia, I want to thank you for coming here today on this first Mother's Day of the new millennium and making us aware of our collective mother, which is the earth.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to thank you for being part of a new generation of heroes and heroines who are giving us faith to believe that one person can make a difference and that collectively we can stomp and shake a star. And last night at the Terence McKenna tribute, it was occurring to me that the message that you and Medha Pakar in India and other courageous women are giving is like voices in a song which is going around the planet, and we can all sing in it if we choose to, and it's a song of freedom.
Yes.
It's like the sirens calling us to a new era. And finally, when I was thinking about how I wanted to honor you, because I knew you would be here, I thought I would present you with this book. It's called Barren in the Trees by Italo Calvino. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or the people in the audience have heard of it, but it's a wonderful story, and it's like a modern folk story, and in a sense, this is what your story is becoming. It's becoming the modern folk story. And I thought, who to better appreciate this story than someone like you? And just the inscription reads, "To Julia Butterfly Hill, a true baroness of the trees."
Thank you.
So I'll do-
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mine's supposed to be the last question.
Okay.
I was wondering what you personally saw inside of yourself come from after confronting the loneliness and the dark and the cold.
Great question. I'll take it back just a little bit. When I had a very, very difficult childhood, many hardships that came to me at a very early age. And the butterfly came to me for the first time when I was 7 years old. It was a day of many when, as a child, I wanted to give up. I thought the world was a really big, bad, horrible place, and I couldn't make a difference, and I just wanted to give up. And I was hiking in the mountains in Pennsylvania, and a butterfly landed on me and stayed for hours on me while I was hiking, and brought this hope into my little 7-year-old world. And then later on in my teens, another time when I wanted to give up because too much bad things had happened and I was too hurt and too afraid and too worn out to want to keep caring, this vision came to me of a brown cocoon. And then this butterfly began to emerge from the brown cocoon, and as it did, the cocoon turned into a shimmering ribbon that unwound, and the butterfly was this beautiful, ethereal butterfly. And the message that came to me with the vision was, through life's trials and hardships, we arise beautiful and free. That the message of the butterfly is that only through the struggles and the trials and the hardships does it become the butterfly. That the transformation begins for each and every one of us. This is an everyday process, but it was one that I learned very real up there in the tree, with the fear, with the cold, with all the loneliness, everything. That the caterpillar is a very comfortable being, and I learned that our attachment as human beings to comfortability, to fear, to anger, and to our very self, our actual being alive, our attachment to that is what keeps us in our lower self. And so the caterpillar is very comfortable. It walks around and it munches on the leaves, and it doesn't walk, it crawls, whatever it calls. And it's got a very comfortable life, and it's a groovy little life, but it's not a butterfly. It's not those things that take our breath away and bring us hope. It's a neat little creature, but it kind of stops there. And then it follows this intuitive sense that there's something more. There's not a science teacher with a graph and chart going, okay, Mr. Caterpillar, you're going to go climb up on a branch and you're going to spin a cocoon and you're going to stay in it for a while, and when you come out, you're going to fly. It's something intuitive, and that's oftentimes our challenge as caring, compassionate, active people on the planet, is that a lot of times what we do comes from the intuitive. And society doesn't honor that. So yes, it will make fun of you, especially if you're from California. They'll roll your eyes and say, oh, you're a foo-foo new ager, you're a granola muncher, you're a tree hugger, and all those things. It's like, okay, thank you very much. But there's not that honoring of the intuitive, but the caterpillar has to follow the intuitive. And it just knows that there's something more for it without really knowing what it is. And so its first lesson in transformation is letting go of its attachment to comfortability, which in our society that is driven by, here, have all you want, we'll make more. We'll make anything to meet your desire without thinking about the actual needs of your species and the planet to survive. We're driven by that attachment to comfortability. So to let go of that, which I had to do in the tree, was the first step in transformation. And it lets go of that comfortability, and then it goes and it spins a cocoon, just because for some reason that's what it's being called to do. But the cocoon comes from within itself and out. It doesn't come from something out there, it comes from within itself. And so our next level of transformation is going within. And then it wraps itself from within itself. And then our next level, and this is an everyday process as well as big processes in our life, that we then have to face our inner darkness, our inner demons, our inner fears and attachments, those things that will tape our mouth shut when we see an injustice, or will hold us back when we see an injustice. That we then have to face that inner darkness and demons, still doing it intuitively without someone telling us why we're supposed to do it. And in that process begins the letting go of our solid form that keeps us grounded and becoming fluid, which is what happens with the caterpillar into the butterfly. Then it has to follow the next level of transformation, which is that then it's very comfortable in that cocoon. The cocoon is a little small, it's a little dark, but you know what's in it. And so you know, you've kind of gotten attached to your comfortability within yourself now. And so the final stage of transformation is the breaking free of the cocoon. To taking what you've learned in the struggles in your daily life from within and taking it out to the world. And the caterpillar isn't told that it's going to have wings and that it can fly. It just knows that it has to push through. And it knows that there'll either be solid ground for it to walk on, or that it will grow wings and fly. And when it breaks through, if a human being even comes through and helps with a little shred of that cocoon, the caterpillar, the butterfly, can never fly. It's got the wings, but it cannot fly. Only if it goes through the final struggle itself, the final push, the final letting go, does it fly. And that's the beauty of transformation in our lives. And that every time I had a struggle up there, and I would pray and ask for strength, and I'd get sent a new struggle, and I was thinking, my God, what kind of karma am I working off up here? I realized that strength isn't something that can be handed to us on a silver platter. That is something you have to work for. And that every time you work a little harder, you get stronger, you get clearer, you become more beautiful, you learn more, and it takes you to the next level and to the next level. And that's how I did it. Thank you.